All right, everybody. Well, hey, we're going to get started here this morning, and I know we've got a few more said they're going to be here shortly, and so, but we'll start with the group that we got here, and so get the ball rolling. And I'm so excited to have Nate Skelly with us, and Nate and I went to school together at West Coast Baptist College a long time ago now, and so it doesn't seem like it's that long ago, but it's getting further and further away. And Nate and I, he probably doesn't remember this, but I remember we were on the same intramural basketball team, and and so he was the star, and I passed him the ball, and so it was a good time. And but since then, we have definitely went different directions. And I mean that in a physical way. I went to Montana, and he is in Florida. And so he's in the place that I always wanted to be, and I'm in the place that I don't think you really want to be here. But no, I'm glad. I think he wanted to come and see you guys and be a part of this. And so I'm glad that he and his son Jaden are able to be with us today and tomorrow. And so looking forward to everything. Nate has been helping Tressa and I with he's been our personal financial advisor, which sounds really high and lofty, but it's been an awesome thing for us since for the last 5 years now, and I'm thankful. He's been a huge help and a huge, I guess we'll use finest term. He's been a huge asset to us, and thankful for how he's been a help. And I know he's going to be a help to us this weekend. And so we'll be recording the service, each session and things, and then we'll post those online a little bit later so that you can go back and you can, if you miss something, you can pick up those things. And I know it'll be a help and a blessing to you. So Nate, you got some time here. You come on up, introduce yourself, and then we'll get started here. Thanks, brother. Come on up.
Hey everybody, good morning. Thanks. Well, I've been looking forward to being here. Well, it's funny because Kyle, you're like, yeah, you wanted to be in Florida. I like waking up this morning, seeing the mountains, driving. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a bad place to be. I love it. A few months ago, we went to the highest elevation point in the Florida Peninsula. It was a staggering 299 feet above sea level. It's pathetic. So seeing some mountains is a nice change of pace for me, for sure. So let me just take a moment. I want to just introduce myself. I'll talk a little bit about my family and just give you a little bit of a preview for what to expect this morning. So as Kyle mentioned, I'm in Florida. I'm in the Tampa area, so on the Gulf side. I'm still trying to get used to saying Gulf of America versus Gulf of Mexico, but it's the same body of water. It hasn't changed. And so my wife and I have been married for 13 years now. We actually met at West Coast Baptist College. And then we have Jaden, who is just turned 10. And then Judah is 8, and Juliet, the princess, she is 9, or she is 6. Here we go. We've got a picture of the whole family here. So we were really trying to see if we could make it work to get the whole family up here, but it just wasn't in the cards for this time around. But hopefully one of these days, I want to get the whole family up here, take the kids, see Yellowstone, see Grand Teton, see all that good stuff. But I'm really glad. I've been looking forward to being here with you. So a little bit about what I do. So as Kyle mentioned, I'm a financial planner. That's my 9-to-5 job, if you will. I started my own company about a little bit over 5 years ago now. But in all of that, my desire was striking out on my own. I wanted to be able to use finance and what I do in finance to be a blessing and to be a help and to really, as much as possible, use it as a ministry. I really feel strongly that whatever God gives you, whatever talents, abilities, opportunities, try to find ways to use it for His purpose. And I know that within our church context, one of the things that we constantly need good resources on, constantly need good input on is our finances. So here's the problem we run into sometimes. We tend to isolate or we tend to compartmentalize finances. We come to church and it's like, that's great. Church is the place that we learn about love and joy and peace and faith. But then we walk out the door, and on Monday, then we deal with real world stuff, like money. And those two are different. And that's not correct. That's not the right way to view all of that. As Christians, we have to view everything that we do through the lens of our relationship and our walk with Jesus. And the Bible actually has a lot to say on the topic of money, the topic of wealth. There are more verses in the Bible that deal with wealth, even in the Gospels, even in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that talk about wealth and material possessions than about heaven or hell or prayer or faith. Not because money is more important than those things, but because the way that our values play out in our life very often intersects with money. So I really want to help us this morning to just have a good view of money, a healthy view of money, a healthy relationship with money. We're getting the cart before the horse a little bit because these sessions this morning are going to be very, very practical. I'm going to give you a lot of like real world examples, day-to-day 21st century American finance type of stuff. And then tomorrow in the, is it life group hour, Kyle? Is that? Small group hour, and then in the morning service, we're going to be looking at, here's what the Bible teaches about money. So, ideally, we should be like, okay, let's start with what the Bible says, let's teach about that, and then let's talk about practical, but I understand just because of Saturday and Sunday, we're flip-flopping that, but both are very, very important, and I hope it's going to be a help to you. I would really encourage you, if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, be ready to jot down some notes. If you got your phone, you can open your notes app on your phone and just jot down a couple things that stand out to you. By no means do you have to write down every single thing that I'm going to talk about, but here's what I would encourage you to do. There's a passage in James that talks about being a doer of the word and not just a hearer. So, sometimes when we come to church, we can sit and we can listen to a sermon. We're like, that's good. It's a good reminder. I agree. Very helpful. And then we walk out and it's like, okay, just back to my same old routine, and we're not changed by it. And in order for these sessions to be helpful and to have been worthwhile for you, I want you to identify 1 or 2 or 3 actionable steps that you can take today to help you in your finances. And if you'll do that, if at the end of these 2 sessions you walk out and say, hey, here's my list. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Then great. This will have been super helpful. But if you sit here and you're like, okay, yeah, that was interesting. That was kind of cool. I hadn't heard that before. And then you just go home and it's back to the same old, well, then this wasn't helpful. And I want it to be helpful for you. So in this first session, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about building a firm foundation. And then the second session is building a lasting legacy. It doesn't matter what stage of life you are in or what your financial situation is this morning. There's going to be helpful things in both of these sessions for you. The first session is going to be more heavily concentrated on kind of your early and middle earning years. And then the second session is going to be more of retirement preparation and in retirement. But again, it's not like, oh, okay, well, I'm in retirement, so this first session has nothing for me. Or, no, I'm middle career, so the second session doesn't have anything for me. There will be something for both, but just as far as organizationally and the things I wanted to talk about, I've separated them out into those 2 sessions. Okay, so with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into our first session. So when Kyle picked us up from the airport yesterday, he was telling us about they had taken a family vacation down to Florida, and I totally get it. When you live up north and near the mountains, you usually want a change of pace. And ironically, people that live in Florida, where do we like to go on vacation? We like to go to the mountains. We want to go somewhere different. I'm curious if you can just shout it out for me. Where's a place that you like personally to go on vacation? Obviously, there's no wrong answers here. So shout it out to me. Where do you like to go?
Zion National Park.
Zion, yes. Where else? Fiji, wow, yeah, I like that one. Where else? Anywhere that is not my personal domicile. Anywhere else?
Hawaii,
yeah, okay. Now, here's the thing. If you're planning a vacation and you were just to ask a bunch of people, hey, where do you like to go on vacation? You would take that as a suggestion, but you would not take that as a mandate. Okay? In other words, if I'm trying to determine where I want to go with my family on vacation, I may ask other people, hey, where do you like to go on vacation? Where have you been? What did you enjoy? And get some input, but I'm not necessarily just going to do what other people have done, right? Because they may like the mountains, they may like the beach, they may like the hustle and bustle of the city, they might like quiet country life, they might, everybody is different. And the challenge, I think, with finances a lot of times is when it comes to our financial goals and what we're striving for, too often we're just trying to borrow from what we hear other people saying, right? Well, I heard somebody say you need to have $1 million by the time you're 65 in order to retire. So I guess that's what I need to do. Or I heard such and such person say you need to have several rental properties and that's the best way to build wealth, and if you're doing it differently, you're doing it wrong. Or so you hear all these, or I heard this person say that gold is the best investment. And you're listening to all these other people and then trying to copy what they're doing, when what you really need to do is figure out for yourself, okay, based on my situation, based on my values, based on my goals, what is the best path for me? And it's going to look different. So there is no silver bullet. There is no, here's the one way you have to do it, and if you don't do it this way, you're an idiot. There's nothing like, it's finding out, okay, what makes sense for me, and then taking actionable steps to accomplish those financial goals. So the first thing that you need to do is to create personalized financial goals. Create personalized financial goals. And here's where I would encourage you to start. Start by creating a financial why statement. And I'm going to be writing here on the board as we go, so I hope these will be helpful. I'll be sketching a good bit. A financial why statement. And really, all this is just like a business has a mission statement or a church has a mission statement. It's a statement that encapsulates the role that you want money to play in your own life. So I want you to consider these questions for a second, and if you want to jot down just what comes to mind. Fast forward 5 years from now, okay? I want you to imagine in your own life, fast forward 5 years from now, what would need to be different in your finances in order for you to feel more financially successful or more financially secure, right? So fast forward 5 years from now, what would need to be different in your finances for me to feel that I am in a better, more healthy financial place, okay? And just think about what comes to mind there. It could be paying off debt. It could be having more saved up. Maybe it's a rainy day fund. Maybe it's more for retirement. It could be that you want to buy a home or buy some property. Could be that there's a trip that you've really been wanting to take for a long time now and you'd love to be able to do that. Could be a lot of things, right? So what would need to be different in 5 years in order for you to feel more financially healthy? Here's another clarifying question, all right? Let's just pretend. Let's play a pretend game this morning. Let's pretend that you won the lottery. Let's pretend that you have a rich, old, distant relative that left you $20 million in their will, okay? 20 million, 30 million, just a number that would set you up for the rest of your life. In other words, I don't have to work again. I don't have to worry about finances anymore. Okay, Monday morning rolls around. You are now financially secure for the rest of your life. What would you want to spend your time doing? Okay? If money were no object, if you didn't have to worry about anything financially from here to the end of your life, what would you spend your time doing? Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's getting off the grid. Maybe it's doing something more. Either you're already involved in a ministry at the church and you'd want to spend more time doing that. Maybe you'd want to travel. Maybe you'd want to move closer to your kids, your family, right? What would that look like? And then here's the third clarifying question. When it comes to a financial why statement, really what we're trying to do is just encapsulate, in a sentence, the role of money in your life. So let me kind of tee it up for you. The purpose of money in my life is to ... So here's what I would ask you to do. You're not writing this in stone. I just want you to give me a rough draft, all right? What comes to mind? And what I'm going to do is while you're thinking and while you're writing, I'm going to write my financial why statement for our family, okay? So the purpose of money in my life is to fill in the blank, write what comes to mind, and then I'll write down what my financial why statement is. Might need to switch to a different marker here. Can you read that okay? Can you guys see that? All right, okay. Here's my financial why statement. To have a flexible schedule, travel with my family, and be generous with my time and money. That's how I've encapsulated it. Now here's the thing. That actually might change 5 years from now. I might rearrange the wording of that. I might add something. I might take away something. This is not your tombstone, right? This is not what's going on your tombstone. This is a statement that really just clarifies right now in this here and now, what is important to me about money, what role do I want money to play in my life, and once you can get really clear on this, then, and really only then, can you start to develop good financial goals. Because here's the thing, when you came in this morning, if I came over and shook your hand and said, hey, so good to see you this morning, hey, quick, tell me, what are your financial goals? Probably would have been like a moment of panic, a moment of like, because we don't walk around with that in the back of our mind, right? I'm not just walking around town like, a card in my wallet. Oh yeah, here are my financial goals. Yeah. We don't think that way. But if we get really clear in our mind about why money is important to us and what the purpose of money in our life is, then what we can do is start to develop some goals to help us support that. All right? So are you following with me on what I'm saying here? So so the first thing you want to do, if you want to create personalized financial goals, create a financial why statement, and then what you want to do is create SMART goals. SMART, and I'll try to specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based. That's a SMART goal. So what might be something, and this is the part where I'm asking for your involvement, okay? So what might be something that somebody wants to do financially? Just give me like an aspiration that would be something common, like something somebody wants to do financially.
Upgrade your family car.
New car, yes, great. Okay, what else?
Pay for college.
Pay for college, excellent. What else?
Pay off house.
Pay off your mortgage, great. So let's just use a car, right? I want to buy a new car. Is that a SMART goal in and of itself? No, it's not, right? Because that's very vague and very open for interpretation, okay? Sure, I want to buy a new car. Who doesn't? All right? A goal would be specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, time-based. So how could we reframe that desire, that aspiration to get a new vehicle into a goal that works and actually moves us forward? Okay, how about I'm going to save $300 a month into savings for the next 2 years. Okay? You see how that's a much better goal than just saying I want to buy a new car, because we're putting teeth to that. Specific, right? Specifically, how am I going to make that happen? It's measurable, okay? It's $300. It's every month. It's actionable, okay? Well, maybe I can't save $3,000, right? But I can save $300. That's realistic. That's within maybe my parameters, and it's time-based. I'm going to do this for 2 years, every month, right? Do you see how we're building that out? So what happens is, as you look at your financial why statement, maybe one of, like for mine, travel, okay? I've put that as an important thing. That's an important part. Well, how would I create a SMART goal to support that? Well, that might be something very similar. Hey, I'm going to save X number of dollars into a savings account for this trip next year. I'm going to kind of do the reverse math on that. Okay, I think it's going to cost about this much, plane tickets and hotel, whatever. Okay, so if I know it's going to cost that, then I need to save X every month until then in order to make it happen. And if I'll do that, hey, I can make that happen. But if I just say, yeah, I would really love to go there one day, and then next month, yeah, I'd really love to go there one day, and then next year, yeah, I'd still love to go there one day, but I'm no closer to my goal because I haven't actually put a SMART framework in place. And so that's what we have to do. And by the way, when it comes to goals, here's what I would tell you. 3 at the most. 3 at the most. Because I'm telling you, when you really start thinking about finances and what you want to be able to accomplish and the purpose, I can think of a lot of things, and so can you. But if I have 20 goals, guess how many of those are actually going to get done? Maybe 3. So what you want to do is, sure, brainstorm, write a list of 20, and then narrow it down to the 3 that are the most important. Because just human nature tells me, and just through experience tells me, that when you're trying to accomplish many, many things at the same time, it's not going to happen. But if you can concentrate on 3, that's very doable, okay? Let me give you this analogy. Maybe this will strike, or maybe this will make a lot more sense here where you all live. But, if you've ever been on maybe a hike, been out, just kind of out in nature, away from it all, and I don't know if you've ever been, like literally out in the middle of nowhere and you're using a compass for navigation, but like hardcore, like this, Well, really what this is, financial why statement, is a compass. Because life is brand new terrain. Life is terrain that nobody has ever stepped foot in. I'm reading, almost done with it, the book Undaunted Courage about the Lewis and Clark expedition. Fascinating. It's been an incredible book. And that's, Kyle, I was already excited to come out here, man, when you invited me. But then I started reading that book, just coincidentally. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go to Montana. Let me read this book. It just kind of happened. So then it's coinciding with a lot of these things that I'm reading. But I'm reading about these guys, over 200 years ago, knew nothing, had no clue where they were going. They were just trying to figure it out. They heard, rumors. I think there's this river. So they're literally just trying to map out new territory, and that's what life is. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what's going to happen next year. We don't know what's going to happen with taxes or with inflation or with war or with any of that stuff, right? We don't know what's going to even happen with our own job and our own industry. So having this is the compass that helps us point us north. It's not like there's somebody that can give you a map and say, I know what's over on the other side of that hill, because nobody's ever been there before. So instead of saying, hey, let me find the exact map that tells me exactly where to go, and I go 2 miles here, and then I take a right, and I go, it doesn't work that way, right? Instead, we take out the compass and say, I want to be heading this direction and get my bearing. And that means I need to start walking towards those trees over there. I need to walk across that creek. I need to climb over that mountain. But what happens when you're out in nature and you're doing that? What starts to happen? You start to get off course a little bit, right? You try to make a straight line, but there's obstacles in the way, right? And so every now and then, what do you have to do? You have to stop and reset and get your bearing, and you realize, oh, I was supposed to be going that way. Okay, I'll only reset. Okay, now, and that's what these goals are, right? Okay, I know that I want to get a new vehicle here soon. Okay, so let me start walking that direction. I know I want to travel with the family. Okay, let me start doing it. And then every now and then we have to stop, we have to reset, we have to reevaluate and get our bearing again and continue to do that over and over again. So create personalized financial goals. Let's move to the second point here in this first session. We also have to organize our cash flow for success. We have to organize our cash flow for success. I was, not too long ago, the kids came home from school and they had won these prizes, and they were like these inflatable toys, like a beach ball that you blow up, but they were like different like animals. Like there was a shark and a T-Rex and different stuff. So of course it's Dad's job to, I've got to blow up the new toys. So I get the T-Rex and I'm trying to inflate this thing, and it's pretty big. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get this in one breath. But I'm working on this thing for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, what is going on with this stupid toy? It is not inflating. And then it dawned on me, it has a hole. So I'm working, I'm starting to get lightheaded, and it's not blown up because there's a leak. Here's what I've found for many people, they feel like they're on a treadmill in their finances. They feel like month after month, year after year, it's like, why aren't I making any progress? It feels like I've been working really hard these last 5 years. Where did all the money go, right? Like, I don't think I'm spending a crazy amount of money. I don't think I'm being reckless. I don't remember taking a trip to Vegas. So where did it all go? And if we're not careful, if we're not organizing our cash flow efficiently, it can be like trying to blow up that T-Rex with a leak in it, okay? So what do we got to do? We got to find the leak, patch it up, so that we can actually start to make some progress over time. So let me talk to you about the ideal cash flow. This is my recommendation, okay? Take it for what it's worth. If you're asking Nate Skelly, okay, what should I prioritize? Because I get these questions all the time. Should I save for retirement? Should I pay off debt? Should I save for kids' college? Do I put money aside for emergencies? Like, what order do I take this in? Let me give you, in my opinion, the ideal cash flow sequence. First thing, actually, I'm going to try to switch up the marker here. See if I can get one that's a little bit more. Aha, there we go. That's much better. Okay. First thing you want to do is get a 401k match. Now, I understand not everybody has a 401k, and really, when I say 401k, I just mean your employer. If you work for an employer that offers some type of retirement match, always do that first. Why? Because it's an immediate double of your money. That is the best thing going. If an employer offers a 3% match, and you put $100 in, they will give you another $100. That's a 100% return. If I stood here this morning and said, hey, there's a stock that I know when the market opens on Monday is going to double, but you can buy some right now. Who wants to buy some? Like, yeah, of course, right? Why wouldn't I do that? Immediate double of your money. That's the first thing you want to do. The second thing you want to do is pay off high interest debt. Now, what is high interest? I would say 9 to 10% or more. So credit cards would be your main culprit. Although some other loans, personal loans, can get up in that range. Now why? Well, because even if you invest your money, historically speaking, even if you invested it all in growth investments like, a broad basket of stocks, over the long term, historically, that's returned around 8 to 11% when you look at long periods of time. But when you pay off high interest debt, that is your return. So in other words, if I put it to you this way, I said, hey, there's an investment out there that pays a guaranteed 20% return. Are you interested? Yeah. Tell me more about that. Well, when you pay off your credit card at 20% interest, that is your return, guaranteed. So that's why you want to concentrate on paying off high interest debt first. So before you save more for retirement, do the match. But before you do anything more, before you start putting money aside in savings, before you start putting money aside for kids' education, always pay off high interest debt because that's going to be the best return on your money. And then third thing you want to do is save up a rainy day fund. And this is so important. And this right here, well, 2 and 3 are why people are getting stuck in their finances, because they're not doing 2 and 3. They're not attacking their high interest debt, and that's choking their monthly cash flow, because all that interest accumulates and it piles up and they stay on this payment cycle their entire life. But then you have to save up a rainy day fund. This would be anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your expenses, not necessarily income, 3 to 6 months of what you spend. So if you spend $3,000 a month, you want to be somewhere between $9,000 to $18,000 for a rainy day fund. You say, Nate, that sounds like a lot of money. And it is. And it's not something that you're able to just do overnight typically. It is something that has to be built up to, but this is so crucial because here's why people don't make progress in their finances. They do maybe the 401k match, and maybe they, periodically, maybe they take on some credit card debt and then they get paid off, or they go through the cycle of I have my car loan, but they get paid off. But they never have any money set aside for the rainy day. And then what happens? Everything happens, a rainy day, and it happens together. Have you noticed that in life? Things go bad and they come together in clumps, right? There's going to be a trip to the hospital. A vehicle is going to break down. There's going to be a death in the family. We've got to get flights to go to the funeral. There's going to be a home repair that comes up. And there's going to be a layoff at the job, or hey, we're reducing your hours. And then all of a sudden, within a period of 7 months, I've had to spend like $5,000 on all this just stuff that came up. And if I don't have a rainy day fund, how do I pay for it? Credit card, borrow from family. Now I pick up a second job. I'm working crazy overtime. None of those are great places to be in, right? So this is your buffer to keep you from not if, but when things go wrong. So 401k match, pay off high interest debt, save up for a rainy day fund, then save for retirement. And this is in addition. So you start with the 401k match, but then you save for retirement. Additionally, ideally, you want to be saving 10 to 20% of your income for retirement. Now, this is going to depend on your situation. If money's tight, 10% might be just fine. That might be wonderful. But, if the mortgage is paid off and you have a dual income and they don't have a high expenses, well, then maybe 20% is much better. Here's the thing. It's all proportional. Because if somebody's making $50,000 a year and they want to retire at that same standard of living, do they need nearly as much money as somebody who is making $500,000 a year? No, not anywhere close. But if somebody who's making $500,000 a year wants to retire and maintain that same standard of living, it's going to take a lot more. But that's why we want to work off of percentages. So this is why I'm not here to tell you you need to save X number of dollars a month, because that's not very helpful, because everybody's in different situations. That's why you want to think of it as a percentage and operate off of that. Now, notice I did not put college. I did not put house. Why retirement? Well, because and by the way, this is assuming that you're still about 10 years from retirement. If you're in retirement or very close to retirement, maybe this changes a little bit. But because with retirement, this is a much longer term investment. And here's the thing. Here's what you have to realize. Even for those who are in retirement, the normal retirement age in America is somewhere between 65 to 70. Well, guess what the normal life expectancy is in America? It's into the late 80s. So if you retire at 65 and you live till 90, that's 25 years that you need to make that money last. That's still a long period of time. And because that money, because of compound interest, which we're going to talk about, that makes it much more powerful. And then the last step number 5, is a branching tree, okay? It's this or this, and this is where it's going to be one of those, it depends. It can be pay off remaining debt, or save for other goals. So if you've done all 4 of those, you're getting a match if it's offered, you've paid off any high interest debt, you have a rainy day fund, and you're saving at least 10% of your income for retirement, then any extra money, you can figure out, okay, what makes sense? I can pay off remaining debt if I have any, that's less than 9 or 10%, or I can save for other goals like education, like a house, like a car, etc. Now, why does it depend? Well, okay, let's pay off remaining debt. If you've got a car loan that's 8% interest, that probably makes more sense to do next. But if you've got a home mortgage that you locked in at 2.75%, well, maybe not as big of a priority. And then also for other goals. Okay, well, hey, if the car I'm driving is already giving me a lot of issues and I've taken it to the mechanic twice in the last 6 months, maybe that's going to make more sense for me to start saving up for that. Or, hey, I have a kid that's going to go to college in the next, 6 years, and I don't have anything already set aside for them. So you're going to have to make that determination for yourself. But that cash flow sequence, if you'll follow that, will be really, really helpful. Okay, moving on now. Let me just talk about our cash flow and the cash flow buckets. And then we'll move to our third point. And then what I'm going to do is when we finish with this session here, we'll do a quick break, give you a couple minutes, use the bathroom, stretch your legs, and then we'll jump into the next session here, and I'll be mindful of our time here today. Okay, so the cash flow buckets. All of your money goes into one of these 4 buckets. And they are give, live, owe, and grow. So let me define those for you. Give is generosity. That's any sort of charitable giving, church or any charitable organization. Live is your regular spending, your wants and your needs, your utilities, putting gas in your car, all that stuff. Owe is debt and taxes. Now, for most people, taxes are just taken out, out of your paycheck. But if you're self-employed or sometimes even like bonuses or things like that, you're responsible for paying those taxes yourself at the end of the year. Debt, of course, would be any loan payments, mortgage, car loan, credit cards. And grow is any savings or investing. So just think about every line item on your pay stub, on your bank account. It will all go into one of these 4 buckets. Give, live, owe, and grow. And a good way to gauge how you're doing is to figure out what percentage of your money is going into each bucket. Does that make sense? So for instance, if all of your regular bills, your wants, your needs, entertainment, if all of that is 85% of your income, does that leave very much left over to be generous, to save, to invest, for anything? No, right? Or similarly, if 40% of your income is going towards loan payments, do you have a lot of capacity for the other button? No, you don't. And they always have to add up to 100%, right? So that would be a good way to sort of gauge, okay, maybe the reason it's tough for me to save right now is because I've got so much going into these other buckets. Or the reason I can't be generous to the extent that I would like to be is because I've got too much going into these other buckets. So you have to figure out where you should be with all of those. Let me give you, in my opinion, the best way to set up what we call a zero-based budget. Maybe you've heard that term before. How many of you guys have heard of Dave Ramsey before? Okay, I think, that name should be pretty familiar. Dave Ramsey is a big proponent of zero-based budgeting, but he did not invent it. Okay, zero-based budgeting has been around long before Dave Ramsey. Here's how this works. You start with your monthly income, and let's just say it's $5,000. Let's just use a nice, easy, round number. And then what you do is you assign exactly how much is going to go into each category, and I like to use those 4 buckets as a good framework for thinking about where the money goes. And I would encourage you to start with give, okay? This would be anything that you give to your church, and this would be anything that you give to non-profit, okay? And that could be a lot of different organizations, right? So if you start with give, let's say you say, okay, I'm going to give $500 a month, and then maybe I also support another nonprofit for $100 a month, okay? Well, now this becomes $4,400 left over to budget. You following with me on how this is working? Okay, it's zero-based budget. Now, I say start with give because I feel like it's the most important use of your money is generosity. Then I would move to grow, okay? And this would be investing, and this would be saving. I'm gonna try to do my best to not run out of room here. Maybe I'll come over here if I need to. Let's say I do $300 a month into my Roth IRA, and then let's say I set $200 aside into savings to save up for a family vacation here next year, okay? Well, now I have $3,900 left to budget. Then we go to O. Because really with O, there's not a lot of options here, right? I can't really take 3 months off of paying my mortgage. I can't really skip a whole lot of credit card payments. That's not going to end well for me. So if my mortgage is, let's say, $2,000 a month. By the way, what I'm doing here at $5,000, you use your take-home pay, your after-tax pay. This makes it a lot simpler. Now, if you're self-employed, if you're responsible for paying your own taxes, then this will need to be a separate line item under O. I'm not going to do that just for sake of simplicity with this example. And then let's say you also have a car loan, and that's, let's just make that $300 a month. Okay, so, and by the way, that's $1,600, sorry. Please don't read too much into the numbers that I'm putting out. You're like, $2,000 a month, how do you, okay, it's just an example. It's just to show you how this works. I know that real numbers in your case might be much, much different. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do is going to be live. I'm going to put it over here. Live is going to, actually, no. For visually, I need to keep it over here. I'm going to write small, but you know it's down here. Okay, live, this is needs and wants, okay? Who knows the difference between a need and a want, all right? Do we need to have groceries? Yes. Do we need to have utilities? Yes. Do we need to put gas in the car? Yes. Well, unless you want to walk or bike everywhere. That is an option. Do we need a Netflix subscription? No. Okay. Do we need to go out to eat 5 times a week? No. Okay. Depending on the person. Yes, we do. Okay. So understand the difference. Do the needs first. Okay. So after my utilities, gas. Okay. Maybe that's $1,200 a month. Okay. So you see what we're doing? And now with the $400 that's left over, that can go to wants. All right. And that's just the stuff that you want to do. Your hobbies and entertainment. Going out to eat, whatever, fill in the blank. Now, if you will do it in this order, you will be much, much better off than 95% of people out there when it comes to their cash flow. Why? Because what most people do is they go the complete opposite direction. They prioritize their spending from here. They pay for their needs and their wants. Then they pay their bills that they have to, their loans, and then if there's money left over, big if, then they might save or invest, and then if there's money left over, maybe they'll be generous. And I'm just telling you, folks, it's not a problem of want to, because I'm telling you, I talk to people all the time. People want to save and invest. People want to be generous. It's not like people are like, no, I just want to spend it all on myself, and I just want to no. But it's just that they're going about it in the wrong order. They're starting with this, and then working their way up, you have to go the other way. And here's the amazing thing. Here's what I found, is when you do it in the opposite direction, there's always money left over down here. And I think that's the fear, right? The fear is, if I do all this stuff first, I'm not going to have enough money for the stuff that I really want to do, but you will. It's amazing. It always works out that way. And what you really have to do is ask yourself, what do I want to prioritize? Now, I'll tell you very frankly, I think that you should prioritize generosity and then saving and investing first. But what does it look like for you? What do you want to prioritize? Are these things, the Netflix subscription and going out to eat, are they more important than saving for some of those goals that you have? The things that you said in your financial why statement, are they more important than generosity? You have to make that determination for yourself. Let me show you one more thing, and then we're gonna keep moving ahead on this. I'm gonna take a quick break. Here's the amazing thing with these buckets, okay? The Bible's very clear that whenever we are generous, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow on Sunday, that we are making an eternal investment. It's a really interesting concept, that it's almost like depositing money in the bank of heaven. It's permanent. It's not going anywhere. It lasts for forever. So anything that we put into this bucket here is an eternal investment. Right? Even though, yes, we're helping some practical things in the here and now, but it's an investment in eternity. Everything that we put in our grow bucket can build over time, right? Put money in our savings, put money in our retirement account, and watch that accumulate and build over time. Everything that we put in our O bucket, most of it, well, some of it goes away, right? If you're paying interest on your credit card, you're not getting that back. That's not doing anything for you in the long run. If you're paying on a car, okay, you are getting usefulness out of that car, but unless it's a collector's item, it's not going up in value. It's going down in value over time. Now, there are some things that you could get a loan for that will appreciate in value, like your home, or maybe even education or things like this. So it's a mixed bag. Some will go up over time, some will go down, right? It depends. But in the live bucket, your utilities, your gas, entertainment. I mean, sure, there's experiences. I'm saying that there's some value there. But as far as financially speaking, are you getting a return on any of that? No. So as you think about that, you see why I'm saying, number 1, most important. Number 2, second most important. 3, and then 4. They're all important. They all have a role. You can't neglect any of them. But as far as prioritization, that's how I would think of that. Okay? All right. Quickly now, just in the next 5 minutes, let me quickly talk to you about investing for the long term. Investing for the long term. A few years ago, my family, we went to Charleston, South Carolina. Anybody been to Charleston before? Okay, a few of you. There's this place, it's not just a place, it's a tree. Just outside of Charleston, it's called the Angel Oak Tree. Like if you spend some time down south, there's some beautiful old oak trees with the branches that spread way out, come all the way down to the ground. They just have a lot of character. Well, there's this one particular tree, the Angel Oak Tree. It's over 400 years old. And I'm telling you, like it is, if trees had kings, it would be the king. Like it is it's impressive. And people, it's a tourist attraction. People come from far and wide, and they just come on this little country road, and they park, and they go to see this big tree, and there's nothing else there except this tree. And here's the amazing thing. For like the first 200 years of its life, no one cared. It's just a tree. But at some point, it became the Angel Oak Tree. You gotta see it. It's amazing. Look at it. Look at the limbs. Look how the trunk. Look how. And that, I think, is a great metaphor for what investing has to be. Investing should not be exciting. Investing should not feel like a trip to Vegas. Investing should feel like watching paint dry. And for the first few years, first couple decades, it's not going to be very impressive. but over time, it turns into something great because of the power of compound interest. Let me talk to you about something called the rule of 72. The rule of 72. Maybe you've heard of this before. The rule of 72 helps you to figure out how long it takes for your money to double based on the return you're getting. So what you do is you take your average return, divide it by 72, and that tells you pretty close. It's not exactly, but very, very close, how many years it takes for your money to double. So if you're earning 4% on your money, and you divide that by 72, that is going to be 18 years. So if you put $10,000 in an account making 4%, it will take 18 years for it to turn into 20,000. Okay? Not terrible, but that's a while, right? That takes a while for your money to double. But if you get 9% return on your money, divided by 72, it only takes 8 years. Okay? So, by the way, 4% is about how much, like CDs or like money market, high yield savings are paying. We're kind of in that range right now. That's great, it's fine, but that's going to take a while for your money to grow. 9%, as I mentioned before, is what you would historically get on more growth investments, but they would fluctuate month to month, year to year. It's going to be a more, to use the airplane analogy, there's going to be more turbulence along the way, but it's going to double much quicker. So let's think about this. Somebody who's saving $250 a year at the time that they are 25 years old. Well, actually, no. Let's do this. 25 years old, and by the time you're 65, let's say you invested $10,000. Okay. Now, most 25-year-olds do not have $10,000 to just dump in an investment account, but this is just for illustrative purposes. Okay. How many times, if you're earning 9%, will that double? Well, 33, 41, 49, 57, 65. 5 doubles. So 10 to 20, 40, 80, 160, $320,000. Just that original $10,000 investment. Pretty good, right? And it takes time. But here's the thing. When that person was 57, guess how much money they had? $160,000. How much money did they make in the next 8 years? $160,000. So they made as much in 8 years as they did in the previous 32. So compound interest does this. You ever seen those charts before? Exponential. We think linearly. We think like this. And investing does the whoosh. And that's time. Time is the most important thing. Get time on your side. There's a great quote in investing. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Yeah. The second best time is today. So a lot of times what I find is that people say, yes, Nate, wow, man, I wish I knew that when I was 25. Okay, well, we can't get back in the time machine and change that, but what can we do? We can do something today, right? We can plant a tree today. Now, here's the better thing, or here's the even cooler thing. Is that how most people invest? Do they just take some money, plunk it in an account, and then never touch it again for the rest of their life? No. The way most people invest is incrementally, month by month, little by little. Put some money in, put some money in, put some money in, and let it grow over time. So let's say at 25 years old, you had no money actually. You didn't have $10,000. You just put $250 a month into an investment account. And let's say that you returned 9% over that time frame. What would that turn into? So you're actually starting behind the 8 ball a little bit. Like you're not starting with $10,000, you're starting with 0. And you're going to do 250, 250, 250. Are you going to catch up to the person who started with 10,000 and never touched it again? Well, by the time you're 65 years old, you would have $1.17 million. That's the power of compound interest. And it's all about time. Getting time on your side. And the amazing thing is, for the first 10, 20 years, by the time you're 45, doing that $250 a month, you would have a decent amount, but nothing that you would say, wow, this is so life-changing, this is going to be, it's time. staying consistent little by little and sticking with it. Okay, so last thing, and then last thing I'm going to encourage you to do, and then we'll just take a quick break here. So I've given you a lot in that first session. Here's what I would encourage you to do. Leave some space at the bottom of your notes for a homework assignment. I'm going to give you some homework. Sometime this weekend, try to write out 1 to 3 financial goals for yourself. And we go back to our financial why statement, the SMART framework, and just think, okay, what are some things that I want to start doing, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based, and start taking steps forward on these things. It could be paying off debt. It could be investing. It could be getting on a regular budget. It could be a lot of things. It could be something that we haven't even talked about really so far. But if you'll do that, that'll be really, really helpful. So, all right, we're right on time. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back here for our second session. Taking notes, buddy? Yeah, let me see.